President Erdogan comments are unacceptable. Excesses and rudeness are not a method. We demand that Erdogan change the course of his policy because it is dangerous in every respect.
Would not be tolerated, and that such commentary was dangerous.
Yeah, was it? Is this gonna? Is this? How is this gonna stop him? Okay, is it again freedom of expression? Like Erdogan is the government, so how are you gonna violate the freedom of expression of Erdogan? Erdogan is the person that is violating journalists' freedom of expression in this country. Nobody is able to. He's the head of the government. Nobody's gonna be able to violate his freedom of expression. His expression is louder than most other people's, especially Turkish citizens.
Clearly, Macron's belief in freedom to insult isn't so free after all.
Isn't so free? Isn't so free? Really, look at this. Isn't so free? Tell me, how is Erdogan forced now to not say the things that he want to say? Is he going to go to jail? Is he going to go to French jail for saying the things that France doesn't want to say? How is he not free to say the things? You think a response to your insults makes you not free? This is what a whole bunch of Hindutva don't get, right? They come and insult me, and they go after my family, and we highlight them, and like, hey, Armin, what happened to free speech? Or like, what happened to free speech? You still have your free speech. I'm just highlighting your comments. Imagine, oh God, this is so simple, and these idiots, and this is a channel with like 500,000 subscribers, and these people, these people do not understand freedom of expression, and yet they attack it. Just, you know how a lot of people, like, they don't understand evolution and they attack it? They don't even know what they're attacking before they attack it. They don't understand how these concepts work.
Isn't so free after all. But of course, this hypocrisy isn't new. It was only recently in Beirut where he was again exposed for his hypocrisy after he refused to condemn cartoons denigrating the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He claimed that the President of the French Republic should never have the right to comment on any editorial choice by a journalist. Yet, only moments later...
Okay, let's see. Let's see if we could actually get some real hypocrisy.
He was caught heavily rebuking a French journalist for reporting on his sketchy meetings with Hezbollah.
Wait, what did he say here? Let's see, before. The comment that is being should never have the right to comment. Again, I don't know if this is actually hypocrisy because I've seen how they edit his speeches. So I do not, if this is actually, if he said the president should not have the right to comment, well, that's wrong. Because the president has the right to comment on anything they want to comment on, as long as they're not banning it, as long as they're not making it illegal by law. But I do not know if if this is being taken out of context. I've seen how these Muslim YouTubers edit things out of context, so I don't know what's actually being said here. But if he said this and only this, meaning that the president doesn't get to comment, then that's idiotic. What you don't get to do is you don't get to ban it, but you do get to comment. Any president can go ahead and say like, "Hey, I didn't like that article." You're not banning it. You could say you don't like it. It's completely within their rights to say they don't like it.
Choice by a journalist.
So, but I don't think that, okay, under editorial choice of a journalist or staff. Okay, so if by comment that means he means that he couldn't say anything, then obviously that's wrong. If by comment he means that he shouldn't be able to get to say what a journalist says, then yeah, then I agree.
Only moments later, he was caught heavily rebuking a French journalist for reporting on his sketchy meetings with Hezbollah.
Yeah, so he's telling a journalist that what you are doing is serious, unprofessional, and mean. Okay, so him commenting on another journalist's way of reporting something, that does not violate the journalist's freedom of expression. You could be a president or a prime minister, or any other form of politicians, or you could go to a journalist and you could be like, yeah, your coverage of me was unfair. Did you make it illegal? No. So their freedom of speech was not violated.
The hypocrisy.
I mean, imagine this, the hypocrisy. Imagine if this was in an Islamic country. Imagine if this was in Turkey. The journalist, imagine if this was in Turkey. If you covered Erdogan, okay, in a way that he didn't like. Do you think he would just come and say like, oh, that was mean, I don't like your coverage, and then he would just walk away? in Turkey, you just mentioned Erdogan, right? Just mentioned Erdogan, a country which is one of the leading countries right now when it comes to the number of journalists per capita in jail. Yeah, you would wish, as a journalist in Turkey, for the president to come walk to you and be like, your coverage of me, I did not like that. And that was the end of it. That would be imagine if that was it in Turkey. That would be fantastic for Turkey. That is not the reality of Turkey. Ask all the journalists right now in jail. And Turkey is a mild example. Imagine if you were in Iran. I wrote something against Khamenei. Yeah, rest in peace. Exactly. Master is saying, imagine back at home in Iran, we would be hanging from cranes. Exactly. We would be hanging from cranes. Okay, you think that journalist freedom of speech was violated because Macron came to him and told him like, oh yeah, I didn't like your coverage. Wow, such hypocrites, right? Freedom of speech, huh? They believe in freedom of speech, but he's telling the journalist that he doesn't like his coverage. Oh no, oh god damn it. This is too easy. Guys, why are these channels so big and our channel so small, given that this guy is such a moron? It's so easy to take them down. It's so easy to show you how stupid these comments are.
Is blatant and something that is even entrenched in.
Yeah, look at this. Bobby is saying, yes, Turkey has more journalists in jail than the whole Middle East. Really? I don't know if that's true, but I know it's one of the leading countries when it comes to journalists in jail.
France's own laws. For instance, France considers.
Ooh, okay. I don't know where. I think this is gonna go somewhere right now that I agree with, a little bit, but they're still hypocrites for even pointing it. Okay, if you're gonna talk about desecrating the French flag being illegal in France, I agree that's nonsense. That's nonsense. That is nonsense. For a country like France that is the birthplace of Enlightenment values, for them to make it illegal for you to desecrate the French flag, or for you to deny the hala, what should we call it? You know what I'm talking about, right? I'm not going to say it because of YouTube algorithm. The big H, right? It's such a shame. It's such a disgrace to the Enlightenment values that France is supposed to represent, that these expressions of these ideas is illegal. That being said, I will criticize France for this while acknowledging that when it comes to freedom of expression, it's a light years ahead of anything that idiots like this would enforce if they were in power. Okay? I will criticize France because I have such high standards for what France could be. But these people criticizing France for not having absolute freedom of expression, they do not get to do that because these people are way behind when it comes to accepting. Yes, France gets A minus instead of an A plus in Enlightenment values because desecrating the flag is illegal in France. Okay, they get an A minus instead of an A plus. You guys, you guys get an F. I'm sorry, you shouldn't even get an F. You shouldn't even be graded. You're off the charts. So for you guys to criticize France for not getting an A plus in Enlightenment values, you shouldn't be in a position to make that to even criticize France for this. I mean, you are. You should be able to, but it's just I'm gonna call it out. It is saying, what is this? Besides criticism of the cartoons and news coverage, which can be accurate or not, are different. Wait. Yeah, but still, that should still be allowed. Yeah, but I agree with you. Afshin is saying, I remember before I left Iran, they had a 15-year-old girl hanged for swearing at Khomeini because she was a virgin. They had her hard the night before her hanging. Yes, I know. This shit, yeah. And these people with these values, they get to be like, oh, but you criticize a journalist because he didn't like your coverage. Gus is saying if they were in power, we would have a supreme leader in France. Exactly. Yes. I mean, these people wouldn't call it. Yeah.
in France's own laws.
Let's see.
For instance, France considers it a crime to denigrate the French flag in a public place.
Yeah.
And anyone caught trying to destroy, damage, or use the flag in a degrading manner would be subject to a hefty fine.
Yep, we criticize that. I think that's nonsense. And that's why France gets an A minus instead of an A plus. But I also think this is nonsense because it gives ammunition to people like you. But even if it didn't, I will still criticize it. But I'm gonna criticize it even more because how people who stand against freedom of expression constantly use these laws as a way to justify their way more barbaric violations of people's freedom of expression, as if it's even remotely close, as if hanging people for or killing people for blaspheming or insulting your prophet or your supreme leaders or whatever is even remotely close to somebody desecrating the flag. I mean, I still criticize this by France, but it's not even close. But given how successfully you have been using these laws to justify your violations of people's freedom of expression, I think it's even more important for countries like France and Germany to get rid of these laws immediately for the sake of being champions of freedom of expression globally.
Clearly, France considers some symbols more sacred than others. Yet to France, freedom of speech is nothing more than a political tool that is yielded selectively. At times, it's imposed to denigrate and marginalize religious minorities.
Wait, what? Hold on, I was paying attention to the live chat. What did it say?
Is nothing more than a political tool that is yielded selectively. At times, it's imposed to denigrate and marginalize religious minorities.
Freedom of speech is imposed? Freedom of speech is imposed? Freedom of speech frees. How does freedom of speech impose anything? It doesn't impose. It doesn't impose. It does the opposite of imposing anything. If you take away freedom of speech from anybody, you're the one who's doing the imposing. You're the one who's doing the limitation. What is being imposed? Are you serious? Nothing is being imposed on you. You are free not to consume the content that is being made by the people who have the freedom of speech to create that content. Nothing is being imposed on you. If the content that the content creators make while practicing the freedom of speech is imposed on you, then that's a violation of a different law. You get to choose what content you're exposed to. They get to create the content that they like, and you get to choose to consume that content or not to consume that content. Nothing is being imposed on you. This is not Islam. Islam is imposed on people in Islamic countries. In Islamic countries, people don't get to choose to opt out of Islam. That's not a choice. You have to listen to the Quran. You have to pray. You have to listen to the azan. You have to fast during Ramadan. There are consequences. You have to wear the hijab. There are consequences in you not being exposed to Islamic values and Islamic teachings. If you cannot say, no, I do not want that, that is not an option. Free speech does not do that. A cartoonist can draw a cartoon of Muhammad, and you get to say, I don't want to see that. I don't want to be exposed to that. Just like the teacher did that to his students. He told everybody, Samuel told his students, if you don't want to see this, you can leave. How is that imposing anybody? You morons, you come to us. Yeah, that's how you share our content. When you get butthurt, when I blaspheme, you're the ones who are going around and sharing my content to your followers. I'm not imposing my content on you. You guys flock to it like flies. Nobody's imposing this. If anybody imposes this content on you, guess what? We call it out. You know who's actually imposing this content, the non-Islamic content on you? You know who's doing that? It's not France, you idiots. It's fucking China. It's China. And guess what? We call it out because they actually take you in chains and they take you in concentration camps and they try to show you non-Islamic content. They force that teaching on you. The imposing is done in China. I guess that what? That is against freedom of speech. So the freedom of speech that you are right now against, when that is violated, in places where that is violated, that's where Muslims are being imposed with things that they don't like. And guess what? We call that out. Freedom of speech license is not used to impose anything on you. The lack of it is used to impose Islam and non-Islamic ideas on people who don't want it. Islam is imposed on people where freedom of speech is not a value. And guess what? Non-Islamic values is imposed on Muslims where freedom of speech is violated. So you should want freedom of speech if you don't want anything to impose on you.
And at other times, it's withheld to protect the
Hold on here. There's freedom of speech license imposed to denigrate religious minorities. Nope, just your goddamn ideas. God, it's a cartoon. It's a fucking cartoon. Goddamn, your prophet is dead. I'm sure he's okay. Don't you believe he's in heaven and having sex with virgins and stuff right now? He's okay. Okay? He's fine. Okay? He's having orgies right now. Why are you so worried about him? Nobody. He's not going to be bothered by these cartoons.
and marginalize religious minorities. And at other times, it's withheld to protect the nation's secular authority.
Secular authority. Secular authority. Secularism is anti-authoritarian. Secularism is anti-authoritarian by nature. There are ways to be authoritarian other than religious, but secularism by itself removes one of the elements of authoritarianism. Secularism by itself is anti-authoritarian. You guys are living in France. You get to be Muslims in France. You get to practice Islam in France because France is secular. You should be happy that France is secular because you would be forced not to practice Islam, not to express your views in France or in the UK or wherever you are, if the place that you were in was not secular. You idiots are benefiting from secularism.